All right, you guys got it? All right, cool. Good to go? All right, sweet. All right. So, all right. All right, we're not going to do this one. The impact of music.
What or when was the first time you remember a song made you cry?
The first time a song ever made me cry was when I was about 11 years old. And the song reminded me of somebody who had passed when I was in 4th grade. And that was about 2 school years after that incident. But as far as anything else, I can't say that there's any other moment that I can recall where a song made me cry. After my injury, music had a different level of impact to me than it ever did before. I grew up around a lot of musical family members, I'd say they were, where, being my grandfather introducing me to a lot of soul music. Like, he was the first person who ever introduced me to Sam Cooke or Otis Redding or The Temptations. After my injury, music took on a different form to where it allowed me to, I wrapped it in with time because I had a different relationship with time. And music allowed me to get back to a world that was no longer. So if a song that came out in 2010 brought me back to that moment in time in 2010 when I knew certain kids, when I was a kid, when we had a certain relationship or just my relationship with the world at that moment in time, it was an easier way to connect myself to that time that was no longer. And that was a direct result of my injury, being that I had this one life and then I had this second life that followed, and they were nothing to do with each other. They were 2 completely different set of circumstances. And music was always my gauge to also silence a lot of the noise that was going on in my own head and just around me in the physical world, whether it be hearing from a doctor and hearing diagnosis after diagnosis. I had that car ride back to just tune into the music, to not worry about, oh, this is gonna make me different from the rest of them. Or, oh, this is now part of my life and it wasn't part of my life. And to be wrapped up in that frame of mind, music had this power over me to silence all of that noise. And surprisingly enough, I didn't cry throughout those moments, when I was frustrated. And I had, those conversations with doctors, and I heard all these terms that I hadn't heard before, and they were being applied to my own state of health and where I was after my road to recovery, I guess you would call it. Music was the perfect way to just escape all of that and be there in that world. Whether it's I'm taking a shower and that shower was painful because standing up for long durations of time was a little bit extraneous, which is a simple thing that wasn't an extraneous thing before. Music outside of the shower, whether it be from a speaker or just my phone propped up somewhere in the bathroom, that allowed me to tune out of noticing the pain and being there with the pain. Yeah, that's basically my entire relationship with music after the fact of, May 29th, 2015. That was a good question. Thank you. Let's keep going. the little things.
Do you feel triumphant about life? And is life better now than it was before the accident?
Feeling triumphant, it didn't feel like I deserved a lot of time to take in what I should have felt triumphant over, and the little things were to be held triumphant because I had to ask my doctor to be able to walk to school. I didn't have to do that before. So the value of life was less than it was before, because I didn't allow myself the time to take in those little things and celebrate them. To feel triumphant over life in general, I had to acknowledge those little things to get to the entire scope of life, to understand that I'm still here. I don't know if there's a reason behind it, but I know that I'm still here. And I'm pretty lucky to say that, because the facts are, it's a miracle that I'm still here. But I don't forget how life was before. Life before was awesome. Life before was everything and anything that I wanted a childhood to be. I just didn't know that that was going to be my childhood and that was it. I didn't know that that stopped at 13 years old, and by the time I was 14, I didn't know how to feel. I don't celebrate the goals now. I don't celebrate them. I don't ask for a party. I don't throw a party. And I don't say hip hip hooray for me. I'm one to just keep moving on. When I published the first book, I just moved on from there, and I attacked the next goals with as much tenacity as I could muster up. And that's all part of the experience with life. And I do feel happy, and I feel like I've not won the game because I'm only 22 years old and I have a long road ahead of me. But I have a good relationship with it, to where waking up every day is a celebration. Getting up, going for a run is a celebration. Writing a story is a celebration. Publishing a story is a celebration. Doing this is a celebration. So with the benefit of time and adding up all of the years, now I'm in a place where I do celebrate life, and I don't overlook those little things as just being little things. Brushing my teeth is an accomplishment for me, because there was a moment where I couldn't do that with my right hand, and I could only perform it with my left hand, but now I can do both. So that's a good thing to be able to say I can do, because there was a time where I likened that to being impossible. But time went on, and I'm not like that anymore. And I celebrate what life has to offer in any capacity, whether it's the sound of birds in the morning or the way the ocean makes me think when I reach the end of that run. I'm happy to be here. I'm extremely happy to still have a life. And if that's not a celebration, I don't know what the hell is, because all of the little things that add up to that, that's the biggest and most obvious, medal of all, is to really celebrate this life. And I'm happy to still be here. And at 22 years old, to not only do the things that I've already done, but to continue to do the things that I want to do and get there eventually someday, and know that I'm more than capable of it all. And that's a celebration. So thank you for that question. That was a good one. All right, next one. He's not here. He had to work. The burden of time. The burden of time? Is that person here? Actually, that person's not here. I think I skipped over. Excuse me. Best friend, the value in it.
Do you consider your best friendship a burden? Or is this still value to them?
Oh boy. When I was like 12 years old, no, when I was 11 years old, I had a group of kids that I had known since I was in first grade. And by the time we reached the 5th grade together, we were all best friends. But then come the 6th grade, we all split up into a different school across the same city. So 2 of them were at one school together while 1 was at another school alone, and then that was the situation for me. I was at a brand new school and I was the brand new kid with a bunch of kids that knew each other. So I felt like I was already on the outside looking in to begin with on the first day of school. But through what was a beautiful experience, those new kids became those new best friends. And by the time the summer came around, we had the best time together. They slept over, we stayed up late, we did things that kids do. And then the 7th grade came, and 7th grade was, everybody else is in a new school, so you're finding your own place anywhere that you can to begin with. And then 8th grade came around, and I don't know what happened, but I just had this large group of friends, and a few of them were considered the best ones. And then 8th grade didn't finish properly. I missed the last month and a week of school. Those best friends, applying that term to them, that became a burden. That became a war in itself, because the value in a best friend changed. And that was overnight as well. Just along with everything else, the value of a best friend changed overnight. And a best friend was a support system. A best friend was a shoulder to lean on. A best friend was this, a best friend was that. And I didn't have any of it. So that term, I hated it. I grew bitter towards it. Best friend, I didn't know what that was anymore, because those that consider themselves a best friend to me, or I did to them, it didn't feel like it. We didn't feel like that term applied to us anymore. We walked around in the same school and we didn't even acknowledge each other. So then I started spending a lot of time with myself and seeing those best friends as just friends, and then acquaintances, and then people that I used to know. Now, I have best friends, and the value in them is worth its weight in gold. It's it's amazing to have a best friend. To just know that X amount of months go by and we can still meet up at some point and get dinner and act like nothing has happened and just talk about those X amount of months, what has gone on in our lives respectively. I went through all of my teenage years not feeling like they were my teenage years, but also not knowing what not just best friend was, but what a friend was. When things changed for me, it changed how the world around me acted and the world around me treated me, how everybody walked around me, how everybody looked at me, and how everybody talked to me. I didn't have those late nights anymore. I didn't have those jokes to tell with those friends in the basement or sneak out and have fun thinking about hopping the fence at the city stadium but not doing it because we're just all talk and we have no show because we're kids. Those were my best friends from that time. But my relationship with time changed. And time went on, and they lived out their teenage years. I unfortunately didn't have those. So maybe if things were different for me, they would have been my best friends through those years, and then perhaps we'd still be the same way today, but we're not. And that's okay, because the ones I do have, they're worth everything. There's such a deep value and great sense of relief in knowing that I do have those best friends, and they are such. They are not just there and people who I'm applying that term to willy-nilly. No, they are my best friends. And I know they would say the same thing for me. And it took a long time to get there. But, thank God I did, because, I don't know, it's everything to have a best friend. Yeah. That was a good one. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you. Do we have any more? Okay. I've got to be me. Okay. So when I was writing these cards, I just wrote that as something for myself. And that person is not here because that's not a topic I gave anybody. But I've got to be me. It goes back to the relationship with myself. It goes back to I've got to be me because I know that things were different for myself. I've got to be me because I know that not all of us grew up the same way. I've got to be me because that's the best way I can go about things. And me being me, I'm happy to be that way. I'm happy to not live as I was, in my younger years and try to be somebody else, to have those best friends that weren't actually best friends, to just have that term and feel some sort of validation in just being able to say that term, but knowing that it's not true. I've got to be me. After all of these years, I got to be me. Look around at all of this. This is me. I've got to be me because that's the only way I'll get to where I'm going, is by being me. And that's it. Cut it.